Last night, we reported on this fiscal year 2025 procurement prospectus from the U.S. State Department. It is dated December 2024 during the Biden administration. This is after the November election, but before Trump was sworn in. Well, now, as the top campaign donor to U.S. President Donald Trump, Elon Musk has apparently somehow convinced the United States government, specifically the United States Department of State, that the taxpayers of the United States of America should spend $400 million buying, quote, armored Tesla production units.
A few moments later,
the State Department would have issued that contract under Biden's administration. So I'm sure Rachel Maddow is going to correct that on a subsequent broadcast. I can't wait to see it.
All right, folks, get this. So Rachel Maddow, you know her, right? She's this high-profile political commentator on MSNBC. Well, she just landed in hot water after basically spreading some misleading information about Elon Musk. Yeah, it's kind of a big deal. So here's the thing. During one of her segments, she claimed that Musk had sort of wrangled a massive $400 million contract for armored Tesla vehicles with the U.S.
Now, as the top campaign donor to U.S. President Donald Trump, Elon Musk has apparently somehow convinced the United States government, specifically the United States Department of State, that the taxpayers of the United States of America should spend $400 million buying, quote, armored Tesla production units. Since I think the only supposedly armored production vehicles Tesla makes are these hilarious trucks, this really appears to be the State Department announcing, putting in writing that it's going to spend $400 million buying these paperweights from Elon Musk. This is a line item in the latest procurement forecast for the U.S. Department of State. And isn't it great what they're doing? Isn't it great and definitely not at all illegal or profoundly corrupt for the president to put someone with billions of dollars in government contracts personally in charge of deciding what happens to government contracts?
State Department. Now, here's where it gets juicy. She implied this whole arrangement was tainted with corruption and hinted it happened under Trump's administration.
Hopefully the State Department isn't planning on parking its $400 million worth of armored Tesla production units under a walnut tree or out in the rain. But otherwise, that's obviously a super kosher use of taxpayer funds and not at all $400 million worth of self-dealing by the president's top campaign donor to whom he has handed the keys to the kingdom. Definitely not ripping us all off to pay themselves, right?
But you know what? Reality check. Turns out the contract was actually inked during Biden's time, not Trump's. That minor detail, though, got a bit scrambled in her narrative, seriously misleading, you know? So Maddow had to backtrack and correct her report. Honestly, this kind of makes you wonder how often facts get twisted in political reporting, am I right? Okay, guys, if you enjoy stories that peel back the layers of misinformation and get to the truth, you're in the right place. I'm really working hard to bring you all the latest with no filters. So why not, hit that subscribe button? It not only boosts my spirits, but ensures you won't miss any of the political drama we unravel here. Let's aim to hit 1,000 subscribers by the end of February. Help me reach that goal, will ya? Thanks a bunch. All right, let's dive deeper into this fiasco that Rachel Maddow stirred up. So, on one of her broadcasts, Maddow dropped a bombshell saying Elon Musk was essentially knee-deep in a corrupt deal involving, you guessed it, a whopping $400 million contract for Tesla with the U.S.
Last night, we reported on this fiscal year 2025 procurement prospectus from the U.S. State Department. It is dated December 2024 during the Biden administration. This is after the November election, but before Trump was sworn in. And we reported on this last night because the single most expensive line item in the whole prospectus for the State Department's prospective purchases in 2025 was a $400 million line item for, quote, armored Tesla production units. $400 million worth of armored Teslas. Tell me more, edgelord of government efficiency. Last night, as we and numerous other news organizations reported on Elon Musk's company Tesla being in line for what appeared to be a gigantic payout from the U.S. State Department, during our show, in fact, that line item was changed on the State Department website so that it no longer says Tesla. And they took away the part that says Tesla. They changed it so it now says armored electric vehicles.
State Department. The punchline? She strongly suggested all of this was somehow tied to Trump's administration, which got a lot of people riled up, you know? I mean, given Maddow's influence and audience, this claim caught fire pretty quick. Now, many of us, well, we were led to believe it played into a narrative of, good old corruption and backdoor dealings. But here's the thing. A little digging showed that this juiciest bit of the story, the timeline, was twisted and tangled. Because, in fact, this contract, that's right, the one Maddow leaned on to paint a murky picture of corruption, was approved under Biden's administration, not Trump's.
Tesla contract is actually now on hold. Dropsite News then updated their reporting accordingly, and they also reported that the new information about how the contract came to be, they say that the acquisition plan was set in motion by the Biden administration last year as part of a move to convert the Bureau of Diplomatic Security's fleet of roughly 3,000 armored vehicles into zero-emission electric vehicles by 2023. And in April of last year, the Bureau of Diplomatic Security issued a request for information to see which electric vehicle manufacturers would be interested in taking on that request. Now, according to the Trump State Department, only one company showed any interest in this contract, and that one company happened to be Tesla.
So, wait, how did this all come about? Well, let's roll back a bit. This entire contract was part of a broader initiative under President Biden. Yeah, you heard me right. Biden had kind of leaned into this environmental push, right? They wanted State Department vehicles, which are usually gas guzzlers, to switch to electric. The idea was to basically replace these with zero-emission vehicles, aligning with that green agenda Biden's been touting. So what happened? Well, the State Department issued like a request for proposals around April last year, calling for electric vehicle manufacturers to step up. Except, and here's the kicker, only Tesla responded. Can you believe it? I think it's like so telling about the current state of competition, or lack thereof, in the electric vehicle market. Fast forward, and we have a situation where Rachel Maddow managed to omit these crucial facts. Instead, she cooked up a spicy story of Musk and Trump collaborating in a sort of alleged backroom deal. But really, the contract had Biden's fingerprints all over it, in terms of policy at least. Now, folks, imagine the outrage and confusion brewing in viewers' minds. What a puzzle, right? Maddow's reporting could be seen as fuel for a different kind of fire, misplaced anger. Many were quick to believe it.
Now, the State Department prospectus did not reflect a contract to Tesla for $400 million. Rather, this was a prospectus showing that the government, the State Department, was interested in making this kind of a purchase for that kind of a price tag. And that, of course, would be a huge deal for Tesla. That would be a really big deal if the State Department went ahead with that plan. It's like an important thing to know about what Tesla had been expecting they might be in line for from the government in fiscal year 2025, particularly while the CEO of Tesla is at this very moment moonlighting at a weird quasi-governmental job in which he is cutting huge swaths of spending and the personnel that makes up what we call the U.S.
After all, the narrative fed into preconceived notions about Trump and Tesla. But hold on, soon after her segment aired, a stigma around journalism ethics and transparency started looming large. People started asking, why didn't she mention Biden's role? Was this an oversight or deliberate spinning? The public deserves complete stories, not like half-baked ones. And here's something else. Given the political climate, how politicians maneuver to achieve their eco-friendly pledges is kind of under the microscope, right? So why was this omitted detail important? It's simple, because it could have helped audiences form a balanced view. Gaining that truth-driven insight into what the Biden administration was really up to, cuts through the noise and lets facts sit center stage where they belong. So, then came the fallout. With corrections on her broadcast, Maddow was caught in a tricky spot. She had no choice but to clarify her previous comments. I mean, to keep it real, retracting bold statements is no easy task for a public figure, but accuracy isn't one of those optional things. It's a basic requirement in this business. During her, follow-up broadcast, Maddow stated that the $400 million didn't translate directly to a contract for Tesla. Instead, she said it showed the government's interest in potentially such a significant purchase. Now, some fear that this correction fell short. It sort of skimmed a major detail, the bit about Biden initiating this bidding process. As you can imagine, the critics didn't keep quiet. What unfolded was this wave of reaction from both sides of the political spectrum, Republicans and Democrats. The latter found themselves probably in a complicated position. I mean, having to reconcile perceived democratic ideals with such a revelation about an eco-friendly initiative feels, hard, right? On the Republican side, well, they seized this opportunity to showcase a lapse in narrative. They pounced on this as evidence of media bias, pushing the argument that sometimes facts get skewed intentionally to fit a specific agenda. It's a prime example of why ethical journalism matters, wouldn't you say? Seriously, though, even within media and journalism circles, there was kind of an internal reflection period. Some commentators jumped in on this discourse about accountability, transparency, and the importance of, getting details right. What's fascinating here is how this story mushroomed beyond just politics, involving journalism ethics and public trust in media. It was a moment of reckoning, right? It made everyone sit up and pay more attention to the stories they consume, dissecting the, possible biases that lurk beneath. Come on, don't you think this entire episode is like a reminder of why we need every piece of information to be vetted and cross-verified rigorously? Because really, it's what keeps narratives honest and sustainable in this fast-paced news environment. So in the end, we have a situation where a journalist went out with half-baked claims. It prompted a necessary conversation, a controversy really, and forced retrospective corrections. It's a whirlwind, isn't it? But this isn't just about Rachel Maddow or her report. It's about the bigger picture of how narratives get crafted and portrayed before the public. Now, I know I might have given you a lot to chew on, but here's the deal. Your thoughts matter. So let me know, how do you feel about Maddow's reporting? Did her subsequent clarification cut it for you? Or do you think there's still something missing? Go ahead, drop a comment, and share your perspective on this issue. I'm eager to know what you think.